Welcome to episode 34 of 100 Years of Marine Corps Tankers, a station dedicated to honoring the legacy of Marine tankers and remembering the stories of what made the community special, told through the words of those Marines that towed the line. Today, we're going off script, and thanks to these gentlemen, we had a cancellation, and Big Top Graham wasn't able to make it on because he's down in Texas. So our heart and best wishes go out to him and his family as he's dealing with this tremendous storm coming through there. He said he's got about 10 years worth of cordwood cut up, so he's staying warm. So joining me today is two tankers that have set the pinnacle for the enlisted ranks in the Marine Corps as far as the tanker community goes. Both Master Gunnery Sergeants, one retired, one active. And Master Gunnery Sergeant Randy Phillips, it is my absolute honor to have you on here. Obviously, you've been around for quite some time, been retired for a little bit, and have a very illustrious career. Multiple combat deployments, and I've been told, I was told that you were replaced by Master Gunnery Sergeant Dan Formella. And Master Guns, obviously you are not promoted because he got out and you guys swapped over at 2nd Tank Battalion as well. You were ops chiefs, but now you are serving as the 2nd Tank Battalion ops chief currently, and obviously tasked with the daunting task of the divestment, as well as some other projects that you have going on. Certainly appreciate the time both you guys have made to come on the channel today.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. So let's just kind of kick it a little bit and talk about, kind of how we came to be here. So Randy, what made you want to join the Marine Corps?
Oh, what made me want to join the Marine Corps? Well, probably when I was about 17. First of all, I got to start from the beginning. My uncle was a Marine in the Vietnam era. And I've had military lineage throughout my whole family. Grandparents, my grandfather was in World War II. My dad was in the Air Force. My son's in the Navy, so
Nice.
It kind of runs in our family. Me and my uncle were the only Marines, so it kind of was always a family thing. When I was 17, I kind of started looking at things and actually joined the delayed entry program the summer of going into my senior year. Kind of always was looking at it, thought it was a possible way to make some money for college, and so signed up and went to boot camp that next summer in '94.
Nice. And Dana, when did you join?
97.
97.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So we got like 3 generations of tankers here. That's pretty cool. And I think I know, Randy, you and I are Paris Island. Dana, you're Paris Island too, right?
No, San Diego. So growing up in Bay Area, I didn't have a choice.
Roger. So 2 of us didn't wear sunglasses while we were in formation. So yeah, I got it. Yeah, good old Hollywood Marine here.
The hills, though,
And Randy, you went to tank school from in 99.
94, excuse me. And then made it to the fleet in beginning of 95.
Okay. And what company did you join when you first got to the fleet?
Delta Company, First Tanks.
Delta First Tanks.
Out there in 29 Palms.
Good deal. In 95, what was going on? There wasn't a whole lot going on in 95, right?
Yeah, not really. You had a lot of the guys who were Desert Storm, Desert Shield guys who were NCOs, staff NCOs by that point. Maybe your company grade officer. Learned a lot from those guys on the mentoring side because they actually got into it a little bit and taught us young guys a few things. They had floats going on. Did a couple things overseas. Went to Qatar and did the offload, MPF offload. And obviously the normal still nights and ITXs and all that kind of stuff is really kind of what was going on back then.
Right. And then 99 went off to recruiter school. Where did you actually recruit?
So funny story. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and the guy who came and told me where I was going, he said, "Hey, you like water?" I was like, "Yeah, I like water." He's like, "Good. There's a river running through where you're going. You're going to Idaho." And I was like, "Where the hell's Idaho?" So, so yeah, I ended up in Lewiston, Idaho. Great time on recruiting up there. A little bit different from what I grew up as a teenager, but I met some great people out there. Did 3 years, had my own station, and yeah, it was a good time.
And how did you get back to the fleet?
I got back to the fleet in November of about 2002. Which was right before the, we pushed in January for the invasion of 2003. So, yeah, I did the 3 years and kind of ended up back there. Back then they said if you volunteered, you had a choice. Me being from First Tanks, when I went out there, I kind of liked the area, kind of knew what I was getting into going back there. So I chose to go back to First Tanks.
So you were on recruiting duty when the towers fell.
Yeah, I remember the day. I was coming into the office, and one of the, I think it was a Navy recruiter, said, "Hey man, something hit a tower." And I started looking, and I was like, and I think another plane hit. And I remember he's like, "Wow, that's weird." I'm like, "Where are my combat boots?" I knew exactly what was going on. About 10 minutes later, my boss up at RS was calling me, "Check your vehicles." When you were on recruiting, you're kind of out there by yourself. You have your other recruiters are there, but man, I'll never forget that day for sure. No, 9/11.
In 2002, is that when you guys crossed paths for the first time, or Dana, when did you get out there?
I got back out to the fleet, and I think Randy, you guys just got back from Fallujah, right? In 04?
04, yes. So
Yeah, that's
I
when we
think that's
crossed
when we
paths.
first made it Charlie Company together.
Yeah, good old Charlie Company stories. True Charlie Company stories.
So the first deployment when you were out there, let's kind of set the stage for that one. So obviously, we at that point we had a pretty good feeling who the enemy was. We had a pretty good idea what the battle space was. What was the preparation and what was the workup kind of get to that deployment?
So I was in a weird spot because I came into the battalion in November and we were going out the door in January. I kind of got, I was a platoon sergeant before I went out to recruiting. I, had a lot of TC time, but it was kind of like, mad dash because a lot of people were actually coming back to the battalion because everybody was getting pulled off of off the special duties because they knew they needed to plus up the battalions. So you had way more staff NCOs, senior leadership pushing to the battalions at that time. So it was hard to get a tank, and I ended up, I left as a platoon sergeant, and I ended up being a 2-tank in first platoon during the initial push for Charlie Company. So it was interesting. It was I had to read back. Luckily, I knew what was coming, so I kind of was making sure I had my T's crossed and my I's dotted before I got back out to the fleet. But I didn't get a chance to shoot another gunnery before I even went to. And it's funny because I remember I was in cash sales, and there was an engineer guy in there, and they were talking about how they were going to do their explosives for breaches and stuff like that. And they were kind of going, he's like, "I don't even know how to do this." I'm like, "It's too late, man. Those days are over. When the balloon drops, you ain't got training. There's no more training. You know what you know, and you're going. That's the way it is." So it was an interesting situation to be in going into that in January 2003.
So January 2003, you get out there.
So invasion, we were obviously on the Kuwait side before, and we did a little prep. We got the tanks and basically got them ready to push. Spent a lot of time in Tent City during that time. I think, when you first get there and you're going through this, you're kind of pumped up. I think it really becomes real when you're loading those DU rounds and things like that, man. You're like, we're about to go live. This is really going to happen. And then I remember sitting on the border between Kuwait and Iraq, and there was a place called Safwan Hill, and they leveled that thing. And all night, so we sat online watching this, and I want to say they took 1/4 of that mountain out by aero bombs and stuff like that. And we're just sitting watching, and I'm just like, man, very, very interesting night. I'll tell you that. A lot of emotion and ready to get going, but I won't forget that night ever.
So your platoon. So you were the 2-tank. Who was else around you?
So I had Gunny Dordle. Back then he was staff sergeant. And I had Staff Sergeant Lagan, which ended up getting out shortly after that first one. And our lieutenant was Lieutenant Wallace. And I believe over the years we've lost touch with him. I'm sure he's out there somewhere, but no longer in the Marine Corps. I know that.
So one of the things that the Vietnam tankers, when I was talking to those guys, we kind of went back and forth on this a little bit. I believe, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe from the time I came in 2003 up until now, up until the divestment, obviously, that the Marine Corps tankers were really kind of a combat service support element. And they argued that the Marine Corps tanks in Vietnam were support. However, there was a period of time, and I think it's really, Randy, when you kind of were doing your thing, that you were more of a maneuver element. Were you a maneuver element at that time during that fight, or were you kind of support?
Yeah, you think about the invasion, it happened so quick.
Mhm.
I mean, it was over in less than 45 days. We were in Baghdad. So yeah, we were definitely, moving fast. So I think they leaned on us a lot. I mean, I think back to when I went through the breach going into Iraq. I was the first tank in the first platoon in the first company of the battalion that was the lead for the division. So yeah, I mean, I think they leaned on us a lot when you talk maneuver at that point. Obviously eventually we got to the highway and started making that push and things got, a little but they still used as a maneuver element for sure during that time, during the invasion.
And you said the breach, so let's back up a little bit. So you get out to Kuwait and you fall on the tanks. Where were they in Kuwait?
Yeah. So I think we were there for a few days, and this was 2003. So
Sure.
I mean, we were there for a few days, and then eventually the tanks rolled in. Master Guns Ramirez at the time was Master. Good old Rambo was our tank leader. I remember him standing up in front of the company formation and get on your tanks and get your stuff ready. We're going north, and but we were there first, and then they showed up shortly thereafter, and we just kind of got them all ready to go on the Kuwait side, and then pushed in.
So when you pushed in, how many lanes were there?
Great question. I only knew of one.
Okay.
Yeah. There was definitely multiple lanes. I just, I was definitely focused being the 2 tank for the first platoon and all that. I was focused on where I was heading after I get through this breach. I didn't want to take a wrong turn and end up in Dubai or something. So,
so as a 2 tank, you had maps, you had graphics, you had all that stuff, or was it basically just set the compass to the north and go?
Yeah, so that's a great question. When we first got in, I had maps of everything, right? And I don't even think I had a GPS, to be honest. I think my lieutenant did, which is obviously completely different than the way we do business nowadays. But a lot of terrain analysis and making sure I was going in the right direction, making sure things were lining up, and that was it really. But once we got through that initial part, there wasn't enough maps to go around again. I don't know. I'm sure there was somewhere, but it was kind of like just head north, and that's why I think we kind of followed the highway up, and obviously we hit some resistance in a couple major places on the way up, but yeah, it was kind of what it was. It was kind of like I remember at a time when we were heading up, I had no clue where I'm at. I just know Baghdad's that way. Let's go.
When I was a kid, early on in my Marine Corps career, I was told that the invasion that you guys went on was a turkey shoot, but I've come to learn later in life after reading some books and talking to some folks that it really wasn't that way. And the enemy certainly did have defensive positions and stuff. Where did you meet your first contact?
That was obviously day one when we first came over. I don't remember. I mean, I would say it was probably a couple miles in from the breach. They did a pretty good job of securing the breach, and the Safwan Hill was pretty open. They took care of a lot of the targets. I remember the first time I got shot at. Something blew up next to my tank. I'm looking around. I'm like, what the heck's that? Something blows up again. I'm like, what is going on? And luckily we had air on station, and I think one of the other platoons caught what it was, and the Cobras came in and took care of it. But after I seen where it was at, I ranged where I was at, and this thing was in a hold down position. It was in a high position. You couldn't see it, but somehow it was shooting at me. and it was less than 800 meters
Oh, wow.
from where my position was. That's how close, because you think about it, we shoot the way we train. I mean, you're shooting at I get, you think about it, you're shooting at targets, wooden targets, but when you're really shooting at a real tank, you don't realize, hey, these guys are trying to stay alive too.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take everything to their advantage to do that. And from that point on, I really, you got to focus, you got to keep your brain going, and you got to be on your toes.
Trying to put myself inside that tank, because I can only imagine what it's like going tank to tank 800 meters away from a defensive position. I mean, that's the pucker factor times 10 right there. I mean,
Oh yeah.
so,
I would say we had fire commands. It was a lot of, what do you see from your position? Driver, do you see something we're not seeing up here? It's just a lot of crew coordination. I wouldn't say is necessarily textbook, but I think a good crew has when it gels. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
And I'm glad I had a good crew. I had a pretty seasoned gunner. My loader was pretty seasoned. He's still in the Marine Corps, Lemus, Gunnery Sergeant Lemus.
Yep.
And I had a driver, Odie, which was a pretty good driver. So they set me up for success. They knew I showed up in November, so they gave me a good crew. Definitely some pucker factor. I think as time went on, we got a little bit more comfortable with the environment, and really started hooking and jabbing after that. But it's definitely not a simple. The simple fire commands, they kind of you try to stick to it, but it's hard sometimes. I'll give you an example. Further up the road, I think it was Gunny Doral's tank. We're sitting on line, kind of looking past this overpass, and some dude was like coming out of a house chucking grenades at us. And so, it's like it was. I'm not gonna say it was constant contact, because there was lulls here and there. We stayed awake for 4 or 5 days straight, pushing up. So it kind of all blurs together.
Right.
It'd be some lulls, and then you get to this next town, and you don't know where you're at. You just know you're going north, and you get small arms fire, or higher resistance, and you do what you got to do.
So were you doing that for 45 days?
Obviously we started in Kuwait and then got up to Baghdad, and took over the objectives we needed to take up over there. The whole time was about 45 days in country. I wouldn't say that it was pushing to Baghdad was 45 days though.
Okay.
So, and then after that, we some of the companies got split off to do different things, but then we all met back up and then went to Kuwait and actually floated home as a battalion. So,
okay. I will say that you win for best pictures. That CD that you happen to come across is an absolute gold mine. You have more pictures from your era and our era from then. I mean, I'm drooling all the pictures you're putting on Facebook, man. It's badass.
Yeah, a lot of those are of the whole company. There's a few of me in there. I gave some props to the actual photographer that was with us. I want to say he was with us for about 2-3 days, so he got a couple of our platoon. But those. When I went back through those, because I haven't looked at those in years, and when I went back through this, like, man, I got to share these. I can't just keep these to myself. So
you floated back, you got back to the battalion, and that's where your paths crossed, right, Dano?
No, later on. I think Randy, you guys got back from Fallujah, right?
Yeah. So
before Phantom Fury, obviously.
Yeah. So after I returned from the invasion, which we floated back, we went through Australia, Hawaii, all that. Took about 30 days to get back, maybe a little bit more. I went to ANOC, and Master Guns Arnold was actually my instructor at ANOC. So one of me and Dan's mentors for a long time.
Yep.
Anyways, went to there. When I got back from ANOC, they're like, "Pack your bag, we're going back." I'm like, "What? We're going back?" I thought this was over. So OIF, what they called 2 started up, and we went out there in 2004 for that one, and that's when the Fallujah stuff went on. My platoon was out in Al-Qaim on the Syrian border, and then we pulled back into Fallujah a few times when stuff was getting hot there.
Okay.
And then the next one is when me and Dan, 2006, that deployment is when me and Dan kind of met up.
Damn, you did it back to back to back.
So so when I was in first tanks, I did 4 deployments in the span of 2003 to 2008.
That's insane. That's a lot of time in country, man. Holy smokes.
I got good at it though. So
so let's go back to the second deployment.
okay.
Okay.
Going that once again, that was still in Charlie Company. I want to say we were out there summerish. So what all my Iraq tours, I never was out there during a winter. It was always summer, even year summer tours. So I got the nice hot weather every single time. But that was definitely, it was the summer of 4 was the OIF2, the original. Like that was when we got to Fallujah. We didn't even take tanks back into country. We drove on Humvees to Fallujah from Kuwait. Wow. And then so that was a little bit of a pucker factor because IEDs were starting to kind of become a thing back then.
And they were soft skin, right?
Yeah, soft skin. Yeah. Whole company, we got a mission to take these things from Kuwait to up there to Fallujah, and then once we got there, we got our tanks. So
same tanks you had before, or were these different hogs?
Great question. I think they were the same because I remember some of the serial numbers were the same. I was once again I was a 2 tank for that one too. Did a little bit of platoon sergeant stuff for that one, but I wasn't the official platoon sergeant. But so once again, kind of above my pay grade. But the tanks were there when we got there, got on them, and we went our way up to Al Qaim and did our thing up there. So
March of 06, you guys deployed together. So did you actually deploy together, like in the same unit and same platoon, or were you around each other?
We were platoon.
No, yeah, we're both platoon sergeants. So.
Oh God.
So yeah. Hold on, I got a picture. Hold on.
Oh Jesus.
The shenanigans, man. Oh my God.
It's the only one I got hanging on my wall, man.
Oh. Do we have our helmets on in this one?
No, it's all right. Al's gonna get mad. But
oh man,
yeah, nice. So there we are. The only time we ever got to see each other out there.
You got Philly in that picture, was our other platoon sergeant, and you had Maxwell, which is an honorary tanker. If you never met.
Yes.
He's got more time at first tanks than I think I do. So
actually had him on the channel. Yeah. He's the only non-18 or 21 on the channel. So yeah.
Oh man, he's definitely well deserving. But I mean, it all started in 04, and I checked in, and those guys just got back from Fallujah. I'm like, holy crap! All right, back in Charlie. I mean, everybody's stacked at that time too. I mean, just like Randy was saying, like everybody was trying to go to war, or not go to war, but the fleets were just stacked. And I remember I was like, man, I just started picking these dudes' brains, and and then I think Top Washington switched out, and then Arnold came in, tank leader. Lieutenant Colonel Duff came in as the company commander. Lieutenant Colonel Baraletti was the XO. I mean, we were just stacked. And then the typical Arnold way, Master Guns Arnold way, he built his family, and so we all became pretty dang tight. And then Charlie's just like everybody, like I said before, I think everybody's got that special company, and I think Charlie Company was that, just the epitome of that. So
the workups for Charlie Company, did you guys?
Oh man.
Obviously, the first time you went out there, Randy, you said you pretty much got thrown to the wolves. Now, by this time, I think we had a pretty good battle rhythm coming down between Steel Knight and at the time, I guess EMV and all the other stuff. So, did you have a full workup, or was this once again just sing it and wing it?
No, I think I had a full workup that time.
I know you're right.
There's a story here. Here we go. Let's go.
Go ahead, Randy. I'll back you up on it, buddy.
so I'll say this: 2004, we had a full workup too. I'll say that. I don't want to say I went in 2004 without some type of workup, because we did do some. But we definitely have more time for the 2006 deployment, I would say. So, So Dano was our master gunner for the company. So you had me and Philly at the time. I didn't go to Master Gunner School. Just, I chose to go ANOC after the one, thinking I would have time to do some school some other time, and then got into deployment cycles. So yeah, it was a good time with as our Master Gunner.
Yeah, crazy time shooting the M16 or M4 off the top on a gunnery, just some wild stuff.
So Randy, you were a gunny at this point, and Dano, you were you were a sergeant.
I was still staff sergeant. I was a young staff sergeant. Everybody else was gunnies. Me and Max were only staff sergeants, and obviously the twos.
Right? Yeah, we were both gunnies by that point. But yeah, that company, like Dan said, you had some, by that point, you had some seasoned Marines that have been in combat. Like by 2006, like I had guys that had been with me a few times. It was just, I don't know how to, it was, it was good. And, I think we had great leadership in that company too, in the right places.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of gelled. It was a good company. So
can you run the traps on how you guys, obviously Dan, you're in the range, but how did you guys actually get out there and prepare and all that stuff? And when you got out there, who did you rip with for that question? And then also how did you actually get into the actual operation?
Yeah, I'll rewind real quick, because I mean, obviously I was a company of Mike Golf, so Gunny Alexander, Top Alexander retired. Yeah, he got hurt playing football. Arnold freaking moved me in. So I was like brand new, young. I was probably the bootest staff sergeant, but he threw me in. And anyway, did that. But headquarters was weird at the time. Captain Duff at the time was like, hey, I had a tank as a headquarters, or as the Mike Golf. So we actually had 4-3. And I qualified that tank as 4-3, which is weird. Yeah, it was strange times. Everything was strange in Iraq at that time, but who knows how we're going to do it. But yeah, anyway, back to the question. I mean, we were just, the workups were funny. I think it was Steel Night. Randy, I'm going to let you tell that story, buddy.
Which one?
You know what I'm talking about.
You got to start it off.
All right. So I think we're out of Steel Night one year or something. Range, 210? I can't remember. The Mounttown. And we're doing tank infantry integration and running the muck, and it's cold. We're like, whatever. We're just sitting in our tanks, not being a good platoon sergeant probably to Alan Arnold standard. And so we get done, we get back to the rear, like, all right, we made it. We survived another Steel Night. And I'll turn it over to you, Fred.
Yeah. So at that point, they had fobs that you could you kind of set up with like a infantry company battalion in these different fobs, and they were kind of running them that way. And I don't remember what platoon. I won't rat them out, but some platoon must have had a hazmat leak, unbeknownst to the other platoon sergeants. And so we showed up to work the next day, and there was a Humvee, and Al's told us, get in the back. All right, we need just get in the back. All right. So all the platoon sergeants in the back of this Humvee, and we start driving, and then we end up somewhere in the desert. I don't know where, but we're somewhere. We get out, and he throws shovels at us and said, I don't want to say he threw them, but he handed us shovels and said, fix it, I'll be back. And he left us there. And I remember Philly, if you ever talked to him, he's like, dang, what just happened? I'm like, I think we got to fix something though before we're going to get out of this. So apparently, years later, once you're a tank leader, you know exactly what happened. Range control came out there and found something, and he wanted to make a point to make sure we learned a lesson, to make sure we police after ourselves. So one of the great Charlie Company stories.
Oh my God, yeah. I swear, we should get like me, you, Philly, and Max on here, dude. Yeah, out of control. Oh yeah.
One of my favorite.
But everybody has this.
I don't want to tell too many stories, but this is another favorite one. I used to have this ongoing thing when I hate to say this, but I'll wrap myself out a little bit. I would say I'm gonna go to dental, and what that meant is like I'm gonna go get a sandwich at the store or something. But one day I actually went to dental. No kidding. Went to real live dental, and I come back and we're having formations every hour.
Wow.
Forgot about that.
So I guess the H&S Marines, they didn't all show up to formation. So but I'll tell you what, those kind of things, we can joke about it now, and I'm guarantee us as platoon sergeants didn't like it back then, but it built unity, and we learned what we needed to do. I like that. When you say mentor, that's why I bring these stories up, because it really taught me how to be a tank leader. It really taught me how to be a good leader.
Right.
Those kind of things. So.
All right. So after shenanigans in CONUS, let's go to OCONUS. So you guys get out there, and all of platoons.
Yeah, we're all split up.
Yeah.
So who was where?
Yeah, all three platoons.
Fallujah, the Dam, and Al-Qaim. So I was in Al-Qaim. You were in the Haditha.
Yeah, Haditha.
And Billy was in Fallujah. So
all three were kinetic zones at that point.
Yeah. For me, it was.
Yeah.
I know it was for you too, Dan.
Yeah.
You know what? I did spend a couple of weeks up at the Dam. Me and back then Sergeant Baker went and visited Dano for a couple of weeks with his platoon, and that was the first time I ever been to the Dam, and different set of problems than what I was used to in Al-Qaim. So
how so?
Just the IED threat was a little bit different. Where out in Al-Qaim, they put in some big boys out there, but they used more like the lollipop, like the triggers you could kind of see. The Dam had like speed bumps. That was something we didn't see out in Al-Qaim. I would say you guys were in a little bit more urban area too. Would you?
Because the one we went out on that mission or that operation, I think, was in Haditha, right? Did I take you over to Bar One? I think I took Baker, but we did the one in Haditha, in Bar One, but it all blurs together, Yeah,
I know. I would say that's the biggest one. I had a lot of open terrain out there on the Syrian border, and the Dam to me was more of a urban. The triangle area just seemed like you guys had more of an urban area than we did.
Yeah. But it was like when he came down, I was like, oh man, like it's like a family member that you haven't seen him forever, You're like, oh shit, what up, bro?
Pulling out the good MREs.
Yeah. You're like, man, take care of him, like bro hugs and like it was
in that picture
you were just happy.
Yeah. And that picture Dan showed, that was the only time during the whole time before we left that all 4 platoon sergeants were together. Wow. That was the only time.
Yep.
That picture.
How did the platoon sergeants get up there?
So we went out to Philly was running he was guarding uranium, I believe. Yep, I can't remember the routes, whatever. Yeah, down to Al Assad. So their our scheduler, that was their mission, just section with headquarters supporting, which Max Booker had with them. So it just happened. Randy came and visit. We had a lull, and I was like, "Hey, let's roll out and go see him." That was like a scheduled thing every month. Went out and see him, linked up, just swap stories and TTPs and whatever, and see everybody. It's just it's always good to see friendly faces. But yeah, that was it was just kind of worked out. We did the whole call to the first platoon, and they were there, and we all just linked up. It was a good time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's like my favorite picture because that was literally the only time we ever all got to see each other in country. So until the end, I'm coming home. But
when did you guys get home?
Late September of 2006.
Okay.
So yeah, we spent the summer there. Yeah, good like usual for you, Randy, right?
Yeah, that was my curse. Summer, even years. I was there.
So when was the next time either one of you guys went out?
From that one, so I left. That's when I left Charlie Company and became the company gunny. So 3 deployments, I went to become the company gunny H&S.
Okay.
I slid over to Delta and took a MEU out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I spent. I think I went to. So I became the company gunny for about a year or so, and then for me from there. So he went to the MEU. I went there, and Tim Leggett picked up first sergeant, and he was scheduled to be the tank leader for Alpha Company First Tanks. And I think he got selected. He got selected, and they were supposed to push out. So I was next door in H&S at that time. That's how it was set up. And I think I was one of the senior gunnies. So I put my name in the house, like, hey, I got this. And so they sent me over, and I became a tank leader for Alpha Company and did another deployment in 2008 from there.
How was it different as a tank leader vice being inside of a tank at that point?
Oh, wow. So three deployments on a tank, and then becoming a tank leader and an MRAP. I think that was the first time I really encompassed the H&S Marines, man. That you don't realize when you're just doing tank stuff, you don't realize what it takes for you to do tank stuff. Like, how does the gas get there? Where do these magical MREs come from? It really, and especially in country, there's so many moving parts. And that deployment I ripped with Gene Potes was from Second Tanks. I ripped with him. He helped me out a lot. And I even told him, I was like, look, man, this is my first time. I've been on a tank, but I want to do a good job. So he did a good job with his rip. And then from there, it's kind of weird because I was like, all right, sweet. I'm going to finally be in Fallujah. They got a cool chow hall here. No, we went on the carnival ride up to Turkey and down south. And so we did a lot of driving around on that deployment. And of course, as a tank leader, that means I got to provide a lot of logistics and not from one area. I had to go figure it out from all over the place.
Did you miss your tank?
Absolutely. You don't think about it. Like when I, when I was like, hey, I need a break. I want to become the company gunny. I didn't realize that was going to be the last time I'd be firing a gunnery. I would be, doing that kind of stuff. At the time I was a little burnt out, but you look back on it, you reflect on it, you're like, man, I'm not going to have that in my life anymore. Now I gotta get these guys inspired that are coming up behind me and make sure they're got this, can do, get through this and do the right things. Kind of
Over that almost 10-year period, obviously you were in some pretty intense combat, now you're in a position of leadership. What did you see from the Marines at that point as far as change in mentality or skill sets, or how did the battalion and how did the individual companies kind of shift from 90s to now almost 2010?
That's a hard one. I think you look at prior. I mean, we had some great people in the battalion at the staff NCO level. They trained us well. Money was tight early 90s. I mean, even going to gunnery, sometimes it was a question, are we gonna have enough main gun rounds to do what we need to do? And then, going into the war cycle, kind of the money cap just comes off and you can do a lot of things. So I think that, personally, I think the training was not to no fault anybody in the tank community, but it was definitely better because the money was there. And then also, you get things like range 210 was put in where you can actually do tank infantry integration. You still did the MAC courses and ITXs and combined arms and learn how to run a fist team and all that. But I just feel like there was more money. And then you had experienced people that could teach the new generation how to tank, because they did it in a combat zone. Even if they did 4 years and did 1 or 2 pumps and got out, that next guy that was coming up was well trained because this dude was training them. So it was interesting. It kind of reminded me of the Desert Storm, Desert Shield guys that kind of took me under the wing, under the wing when I first came in. I learned a lot from those guys, and I think you've seen the same thing during those times.
Danny, you want to answer that question too?
It was, yeah, as far as what, like getting off the tank and that leadership role? Was that
Yeah, just kind of seeing the progression and how you dealt with,
I mean,
you know.
yeah, it was, I mean, it goes back to checking back in when I met Randy, you know, I'm like, oh, sweet. Like my whole platoon's all my former students, you know, which was on my man. I really hope I, you know, that extra time or whatever, I hope I taught them right. But they were already, you know, combat seasoned. So I'm like, actually, you got to be humble and learn from them. Luckily, I mean, I had great dudes. Luckily, I got Troy Stump right off the get-go. And I mean, he was, everything to that man. And then my crews, you know, and the platoons and that whole company. It was just, we all made each other better. But
it was a competition.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, gunnery was that competition back, you know, that you always hear about. You know, the shit talking and yeah, who's going to shoot the best. And yeah, that's how it was though. We were tight. It was a tight brotherhood, but yeah, respect was always there, but it was it was really like, you know, it was a brotherhood. That's the best way I can put it.
Speaking of competition and gunnery, just to change the topic for a second, I saw a lot of comments on your Facebook picture there, Randy. Is it true that Tiger Comp is that the trophy is going to stay with 4 tanks? Is that a thing?
That was a little pot stirring for Dan.
Like, is that a thing? I mean, that might be a thing.
You see him out of the... So I've been known as a little bit of a jokester throughout my career. I like bringing humor to things. And sometimes that means I'm going to get you. that was 100% me just messing around with. I'm sure I think it's probably going to go into a museum probably somewhere, right, Dan?
Yeah. So I mean, it's ongoing discussions that we've been talking about, like where to go, you know, and I'll just leave it at that. And it should go in the freaking Marine Corps Museum.
It should.
But me saying 4th is going to have it forever. That kind of builds the competition from the other battalions. You can kind of see
it does. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. One day I'll be cool and retired and have a sweet beard and hair like you, but you know.
I want to know where the hell the lieutenant sprocket went, but that's another topic.
Hey, crazy story. I actually owned that for about a week when I was the 4 chief. It was awesome.
Nice.
Finally, you know, it's like bucket list check.
Yeah, we broke a swimming pool with it, but no big deal.
I'm 2-9. I remember that.
So, all right. So 2009, Randy, how does a tanker end up as the staff NCOIC at the Marine Corps Institute?
Oh my God. So once again, the guy, Dan mentioned him before, Gunny Alexander went out there. So there's an actual billet for 1 tanker at the Marine Corps Institute, and crazy and ironic. So you got Gunny Alexander that was out there. I went out there. Then Alexander went back out there. And then my loader, Lemus, took over for Alexander. So I guess we kept it in Charlie Company pretty well. But anyways, there's a billet out there. And it used to be with 8th and I. Now I think it's under Marine Corps University or education. I'm not sure. So you had to deal with... You had to deal with parades, you know, the Friday night parades, the Sunset Tuesday parades, hosting for events for the commandant, all that kind of stuff, and then write MCIs. At that point, Alexander, while I was up there, Alexander did a lot of work on the tank gunnery MCI. I think me coming up there was good because at that point I was a master gunner and I had, you know, that education. So I got that thing finally finished. And I think it was still in publication to this day. I don't even know anymore, but that was kind of cool. I got a chance to kind of take a lot of the stuff Dan was even working on over at when he was at and put it into this MCI. So, but yeah, there was one billet up there. So
So we skipped over that. What rank were you when you went to Master Gunner School?
I was a gunny. That was when I was a company gunny.
Wow.
Yeah. So, oh man, I was on the fence about going at that point because I didn't know what my future held. I didn't know if I was am I going to be a tank leader, go the mass sergeant route? Am I going to be a first sergeant? But I sat down with and talked to some of the leaders, the enlisted leadership there at the battalion, and they just said, "Look, it'll be a good skill set for you to have." And there was an opening, and I was like, "Hey, I'm a company gunny. If you guys are cool with me not doing company gunny things, I'll go to school." So it was definitely later on in my career. I'm glad I went because I think it really, having that knowledge base helps, especially when you're a tank leader. So I didn't really learn a lot there, though. Dan taught me everything before. No, I'm just kidding.
So after getting beat up over the Marine Corps Institute, you came back to Second Tank. So 2012, 2014, Delta Company as the tank leader. What's your memories back from this period?
So that was the first time I ever been at Second Tanks.
Okay.
I was a master sergeant by that point. Did a tank leader stint over in Iraq as a gunny over at first before I went to MCI. So I kind of understood it. Master Guns Arnold was the operations chief. So I'm not gonna say that's why they needed someone to go over there, but going to Second Tanks, first time being there, you don't know what SR10 is, you don't know what all these things the difference are. One thing I can say is the training's training. Like I always heard this back and forth, first and second. I had a great company. Delta Company was man, those dudes were on it. And I seen it when we were over there. And this time we went to Afghanistan. So different environment. So yeah, it was definitely eye-opening being the first time I was at Second Tanks.
What's your perspective? I mean, obviously very different between Operation Iraqi Freedom versus Enduring Freedom, but everyone's kind of got a different take on the two different theaters. There's some similarities, but there's a hell of a lot of differences from what I personally know. What was your kind of perspective between those two operations?
So I got to Afghanistan in 2013. So at that point, they were really starting to draw down. We did a lot of base closures where we would just drive to random places and shut down bases, which brought up extremely challenging problems with IEDs and not knowing the areas. Also, once again, we were kind of like we were in Iraq. We had our platoon spread out too, through Shikvani, Shergazi, those kind of areas. So as a tank leader, on that one, I was like, sweet, I get to be in a singular place finally. Well, then I started running, logistics to my platoons that were in these other places. So a lot of road time. I think I did like 20,000 miles. 20, I don't know. It was a ridiculous amount of mileage on the road during that one. Environment wise, a little bit more hilly over there. Like I said, it's hard because we were on the downside of that one. I don't want to say things weren't kinetic. They got kinetic at times, but it definitely, and actually Master Guns Tapio was one of my platoon sergeants, and that's that was one of the ones where he got injured. So from the tank fire. So definitely kinetic environment. The ROEs were, a little bit, I would say, stricter than they were in Iraq, which set up for a tank, set up a set of challenges. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was tanking. You did the tanking. So
right. Yeah, I had a real interesting conversation with a couple of the Vietnam tankers regarding rules of engagement, and they have a very interesting perspective. Because where they were, I mean, for the most part, the guys that were in the bush, I mean, there was no rules of engagement. If it was in front of you, it was a bad guy.
Mhm.
And I know you guys experienced that early on in OIF.
Mhm.
I know when we went over there, it was a little bit different, depending on where you were. But like you said, OEF, Afghanistan, that was a whole different ball of wax. I mean, that was just crazy. And, you know, I don't want to say it induces a momentary pause, but I have to say it induces a momentary pause, because you're going to have that conversation between the tanker and, you know, the tank commander and the gunner, and say, hey, you know, what do you think? You know, and that's a scary situation to be put in. And a lot of the times, you know, I'm not sure that those who write the rules of engagement have that perspective, particularly from inside of a tank. And the other piece of it is the best rules of engagement brief I ever got was from a lawyer who was a rather senior lawyer. And he said, this should not be restrictive. You need to understand this to a level of fidelity that it's not restrictive.
Mhm.
That's good to say, and you can brief that and it briefs well. But when you're in the moment, I don't know who can do that. So I'll pass it back to you guys for comments on that, just for a moment.
So I'll talk about Iraq just real quick. So you think about 2003, that was shoot whatever you see, right? I mean, there was rules of engagement. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, conduct
But like the law rules, yeah.
law of war. But I mean, pretty open. Second deployment, RE's kind of changed. Third deployment, now you got to have PID, flares, all this other stuff. You know, fourth one, I would say my fourth one was a lot less kinetic as my other ones. By that point, I think they had the Sons of Iraq going, the guys with the glow belts on that would be out there in the streets. And whoever came up with that idea, in my opinion, I think that changed a lot of things over there, because the dudes who were putting in IEDs were now getting paid by whoever was paying them to not do it. So yeah, but it all, in my opinion, I seen that whole change. And like I said, I went from the war. So Gunny Tap's company replaced me in 2008, and he was the last platoon or company in Iraq before they put the tanks away. So I was a second to last. So I got to see the whole cycle. And I agree. You look at like tanks in 2006, 2008-ish, maybe not 2006 because it was still kinetic, but a guy who hasn't pulled a trigger, he, you know, when he got finally in that situation, kind of like what I dealt with in 2003 when I was 800 meters away from that tank, he had that. And you know, he almost felt like he needed to call somebody of leadership to even shoot small arms fire or a main gun round. I definitely felt that way when I was in Afghanistan.
Dano?
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind, shoot, I've already talked about this. Yeah, it was probably 5 months in. We're sitting off the main road on river, right outside of Dita, looking back at Southdown Village. And there was this guy digging on the side of the road midday. And shoot, it was probably 800 meters. Kept looking at it, you know, call it in. We're like, hey, we got positive ID, guy digging. You know, it just didn't feel right. You know, I got cleared to fire, but I didn't. Thank God. Guy was just out there planting as we, you know, doing this farm. And that's after we rolled in to get closer look, you know, that's what we found out. But yeah, just the ROE, you know, you know, you got to make those decisions. Could have killed a dude that was innocent that day and caused all kinds of havoc, you know. And you know, later on we got blown up right where he was digging anyway. But you know, it is what it is. You know, Downs did. But yeah, it was, you know, one of those spur moment things, you know, calling your wingman, you know, hey man, what do you think? You know, you see this? It's like, man, I can't tell. So yeah, it's strange ROEs, man. Those will mess with your head a lot.
Yeah. And that acronym PID, I think that, you know, that's positive identification is what I think, Dan, that's what you're kind of talking about, right? That
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Positive ID. Yeah.
That really wasn't a thing, I think, until our deployment. I don't remember that from 4 or 3. That really became a thing in 6.
Yeah. So 2014, 2016, once again, tanker given a rather unique assignment. Headquarters Marine Corps, Manpower and Reserve Affair. And then the manpower management enlisted assignments, right? Is that right?
Yes.
That's a hell of an acronym. Basically, you were the monitor.
Yes, I was the monitor for tanks, Amtracs, LER, and NBC, CBRN now, NBC back in the day. What you said, I actually found out when I was in Afghanistan I was going to do that, so that's why my time at Second Tanks was cut short, because that's something you get screened for. It's not something you put in for. And I got selected for it. I learned a lot about manpower up there. I learned a lot about Headquarters Marine Corps. And if our community was still going, I think a person in that position coming back can teach so many things when you're talking TOAGs, stuff like that, because you know so much about manpower after you go do something like that.
So after your tour as the monitor, obviously, like you said, you learned a lot working with the Headquarters Marine Corps. That absolutely instrumental during that period of time for the Marines, making sure that they're going to the right locations and all the assignments. Huge responsibility. But your real responsibility didn't stop there, because you had one more build in you, and that was the operations chief, as I mentioned during the opening, that you ultimately handed off to MGunz Formella. But during that time as operations chief, 2016 and 19, there was a lot of things going on. What are some of your biggest challenges from that period of time?
I think some of the biggest challenges at Second Tanks was how many companies we had. If you think, man, I felt like we were a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest at all times. And what I mean by that is, I think the infantry battalions, or just the Marine Corps in general, had grown accustomed to there always being 4 companies. At the time, we didn't have 4 companies worth of tankers. So it was hard. It was hard they still wanted all. And then you had the individual augments going on to certain places. And they would strip us of, that senior staff NCO leadership. And I know that had to happen because there was a war mission going on. But I do think it affected the training of those junior guys coming up the ranks a little bit. No fault to their own. They stood, just like us, when we get put on positions that when we were younger, we stand up and do what we got to do. But it definitely presented some challenges. We did, and then on top of that, you're trying to do battalion things too. So yeah, it was challenging. I felt very, I guess everyone will say I don't have enough manpower, but that was the first time I really felt like we didn't have enough manpower to do what's asked of us. Going to the TOAGs, hearing things, you hear numbers going to get plussed up back and forth. You get happy, then you get sad. And, yes, but those years were definitely challenging. On that side, we were at that point, we didn't have companies going out on deployments anymore. You had your platoons that were going out and doing training, the MUs. But yeah, the individual augments were killing us on the enlisted and officer side, because the officers were getting destroyed too on augments at our major rank. And which, when you're the ops chief, that affects you huge, because, generally your operations officer is a major. And for a while, for later in my time there, we got that kind of worked out. I think we got the right game plan to paint our picture to the division and higher. But when I first got there, we had a lieutenant as the operations officer. So yeah, and it's not the battalion's fault. They had to send people these augments.
Right.
So it definitely was challenging. Obviously they still want the same. They want the same cake made at the end of the day, just with less ingredients.
And then obviously you did the rip with Dan there. You know, so the problems that you experienced were what, compounded by the time you got out there?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, shoot, I'll tell a story real quick. So me and Manny, after I got selected, or actually before I got selected, I mean it was gonna be tight, and I was like, hey man, you want to go second, or because you got 3 years time on station, or do you want? I was like, I'll stay here maybe. He's like, nah, you go second. I'm like, all right, second. So let that be known, and then I knew I was gonna be turning over with Randy. He gave me a heads up. He's like, hey man, you're gonna be going back out to 29 Palms for this crazy thing called MWX. And hey, by the way, you got a CGI coming up too. He's like, good luck, buddy. You got it. And no big deal though. Honestly, it worked out pretty well. Thinking back on it, we talked the other day too, and I get it now, and but yeah, the augment stopped for the IAs, which helped out a lot. We got Charlie Company back full board. And things were going in the right direction, for the obviously the news. It was a good run while it lasted. And it was thank God for Randy taught me a lot from his manpower seat. We spent a lot of time on manpower, how to figure that stuff out. And he taught me all kinds of stuff, which definitely helped me out later on now as I was trying to get Marines new homes. And so I was very, very thankful for that. So it all makes sense now. It didn't make sense at the time, but it all makes sense now. No.
So other than growing out a beautiful lock of hair and a nice full beard, what have you been doing since 2019?
Oh, great question. So what I've been out about a year and a half. So when I first got out, and Dan said it, and it's no one's fault, but I was getting to the point where I did two things really pushed me to get out. I was at 25 years. I knew I could probably stick around for another 5, but I knew these guys. I didn't know that there was going to be a divestment at that point, but I always said to myself, "There's some heavy hitters coming up behind me. Tapio, Dan, all these guys are coming up behind me." And I just felt, I don't want to say guilty, but I was like, man, these dudes need a chance to see. So I was happy with my career. I made as high as I wanted to. So obviously at that point, I didn't know Dan was going to be the guy taking, getting it for me, but I'm okay with it. Yeah, that was one of my main reasons for kind of moving on. When I first got, at the same time, I was a little burnt out, man. Going from all these billets over time is just, I had a little, I shouldn't say this, but MCI, when I went to MCI, it was a little bit of a break. They didn't consider it a break for me going to the field all the time, going to combat deployments. That was a break.
Right.
I got to actually see my family on most nights. So I was burnt out. And like you said, the requirements just were nonstop. And like you said, we just barely got Charlie Company up and running. So I was burnt out. And when I turned over with Dan, I was like, man, my thought is you can only have one. It's like Highlander. You can only have one. But if you need me to teach you the ways, I will. So when he showed up, I kind of let him have the reins. I was there for a little while to kind of, fill in the blanks, but it was hard. And then also at the battalion level, we were going in so many different directions. Siege, I don't know. How'd that turn out, Dan? Did we pass?
We're good. We passed it very well.
But you worry because it's like, man, we're going in 50 million directions. They want us to pass this CGI. Okay. Let's roll the dice on this one. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's a classic case of rubber balls and glass balls. I mean, that is absolutely a classic case.
Exactly.
No, that was it. Yeah, just grinded a little bit. It worked out.
Yeah. But so since I got out, I opened a business. I opened an appliance repair business, and I was kind of like, yeah, I want to kind of do something. Kind of looked at that. It was a franchise. Did that. I started that in probably September. My actual retirement date was when I was officially out of the Marine Corps was like July. I've never been one to kind of sit still too long. that kind of lasted till about February, March when COVID hit, and that wiped me out, man. That really hurt my business because I was a new business.
Right.
So because it was a franchise, we owned territory. So I just sold the territory to somebody else and kind of got out of that. I didn't do too bad. I'll just leave it at that. But so yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing now. I just kind of volunteer for the Legion, and
Nice.
I kind of get involved in the community, which is what I was doing before this interview, and kind of hang out, let my hair grow now.
Well, you're doing that very well. It looks awesome, and I'm super jealous, and I know Dano is too. So obviously, this channel has a message, and you two gentlemen have lived your lives dedicated to tanks. And Dano, you've already had the opportunity. I mean, you have an opportunity every day to talk to the Marines. So I'm going to ask MGunz Phillips here to give a message to the community, and what I feel bad about, and what I really have spent a lot of time thinking about, is that the loss of the tanker balls, and the loss of the community getting together as a community to honor folks like you, because MGunz Phillips, you would be a speaker at a ball, guaranteed. And, you know, we're not going to get that opportunity to hear you speak. So with that kind of perspective, you know, what message do you want to give to the community, and also, you know, to the Marines that one of the hardest things I had to do personally when I was at Benning was look at the last class of tankers and realize that every one of those Marines they are tankers. Never take it away from them, but they're not going to have the experiences that we all share. And that was very, very difficult. With that kind of perspective, what is your message?
Man, that's a tough one. I agree with you 100%. I think about that all the time. Is I worry about these guys I've seen come up in the ranks. You know, the guys who are mid-level careers, like Gunny Rogers, Andy. I don't know where he's at now. I know some of these guys have picked up first sergeant. I pay attention. Some of them picked up master sergeant. I know some are moving over to other MLSs. One thing, this is the one message, if you guys get nothing else from me, I would consider myself not having the normal tanker career. And what I mean by that is I didn't go to tank school. There's a couple things because of the war and just how my career played out. I didn't do certain things. I didn't go to schoolhouse, things like that. What I would recommend to everyone, this one message, is grow where you're planted. That's how I got to where I was at. I always try to be, some people are going to disagree with this, but I always try to find humor in things. I always, you know, and there's times when I get frustrated, and you're going to know about it, but I truly have always tried to stay optimistic at everything I've done. And it's paid off. And if you do that, if you grow where you're planning, no matter what it is, if you're the guy sweeping the floor, or you're the dude running the battalion, if you can just grow into that billet and do the best you can, you're going to have success. So for a community that's kind of where we're at and people are leaving to go elsewhere, that's my message to you. Grow where you're going to go. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys become after our tank community kind of goes its way.
Thank you for that message. That's very heartfelt, and I think that's what we need to hear today. Gentlemen, I know this interview was kind of last minute, and I appreciate the time you've certainly made, and the stories are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. Thank you for your careers. Thank you for all the blood, sweat, tears, and the hours inside that metal beast, and your heroism during combat. Dano, you're still working, so you know, thank you for everything you're doing. I know you've got probably one of the hardest challenges that any Marine kind of has right now. You master gunners master gunner sergeants that are in the battalions right now. I don't pity you all at all. I mean, your jobs are absolutely incredible right now, and you're doing a fantastic job. And because of that, thank you. I know the community, past and present, thank you for the work you're doing. With that, I'll give you guys parting comments.
I would like to say something before I leave. Seriously, this is something great that you've done for the community. I hope this gets to people, because this right here, what you're doing right here with this, is history. Like you said, we're not gonna have balls anymore. We're not gonna be able to get together with the old guys and hear stories, maybe on social media, but maybe we'll have some get together reunions internal to, the people but this right here is going to be huge. So
Thank you.
I truly appreciate, and Dan, over the years, people don't know the stuff, some of the things that we do for the community. Man, you're right there too. You are helping tell the history of the tank community, and I just appreciate you guys doing this. And I think years later, this is going to mean a lot to the Marine Corps and us as a community.
Thanks, MGunz. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, heck, it's awesome. Didn't expect him to be back on tonight, but thanks for that. No, it's no, just like, it's a crew effort, and I'm behind the scenes guy for you. So, and many other are too. So, but definitely, I'm all about this channel since day one. So it's sometimes we got to phone some friends, and it worked out, and
Okay.
yeah, we had it's a good times and great stories, and yeah, I mean, personal note real quick, I guess update for everybody. I mean, documentary interviews are done. Everybody, most people who follow social media seen everything, so be on the lookout for that. We'll have something special coming up for everybody.
MGunz, thank you. Gentlemen, I really do appreciate it with all my heart. And
Thanks, man.
Semper Fi.
Right.